Good morning. My name is Drew Holley. I'm with BIS Benefits, and I'm joined by my colleague, Jesse Couch. Jesse,
Good morning.
How are you? Morning.
Good morning, Vietnam.
Good morning, Vietnam. That is a great cast to the late, great Robin Williams. If you're under 30 and you're listening to this podcast, you probably have no idea, but the voice of the original Aladdin, not Will Smith, did an unbelievable movie called Good Morning, Vietnam. Very funny, also very moving. So today we're going to talk about cyber insurance. I know if you're listening, you're very excited. We're talking about cyber insurance, but
buckle up.
Yes. But, you know, I always want to say, if you're listening to this podcast and you're a small business, let's define a small business as under 150 employees. Do you need to be concerned about this? Is this only, are the hackers going after Home Depot, Coca-Cola, all the big Fortune 500 companies, and just ignoring a 10, 20 person company? Where is cyber attacks coming at? And be realistic. Let's not do any scare tactics.
Yeah, no scare tactics. Just I've been doing this about 20 years now. So when I first started, cyber insurance was really just kind of getting started, and technology companies would buy it because they had to. They were required to by contracts. And we would offer it to clients and they'd say, I'm too small. I'm not big enough to be a target. But actually that's not true, because they know that the small businesses have less controls, less training, and just weaker. They're an easier target, basically, for hackers. So it's just gotten to be the point where these hackers are so sophisticated now. I mean, anyone's a target. So absolutely any business out there should be thinking about this.
Have you ever had a client, without naming a specific name, be attacked?
Yeah, we just got a call last week, actually, from a small nonprofit. And a hacker tricked them to sending out about $50,000 in wire fraud. It was about $10,000 to $20,000, just smaller wires. And yeah, they called, and cyber insurance was what bailed them out of that situation.
Okay. Well, in that case, it was good that they had that policy. What can a company do or not do to maybe prevent that? Was there maybe one or two things you would highly recommend?
Yeah, most of the insurance carriers, when you're going through the process of applying for it, they'll go through some of these questions, but really a callback to anyone you're sending money out to, just to verify that it's actually the person you intend to send the money to. That'll weed out 99.9% of, that's called a social engineering claim, where you send out the money willingly to someone. And you may have a little bit of cyber on your small package policy, but it's not going to cover that typically. You have to have a standalone cyber policy to cover that.
Okay, so let's go through that, the history. So again, your business, you've been around for 10, 15 years. You might have bought, correct me if I'm wrong, a business owner policy, and it just had a wide range of things it covers. And
Right.
The original policies might have had one or two sentences where they'll cover a cyber. As the hackers, the person behind the curtain are attacking more, isn't it true that a lot of those one or two sentence covering is limited or not covering at all? So now what's happening, especially last 5, 6 years, standalone, meaning an existing cyber only policy to really give you more coverage. That's what you've seen the last 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely. The insurance carriers try to, for small business owners, they know that you aren't going to go out and buy 20 different policies most likely. So they try to make it pretty broad. And you may see cyber insurance included on there and think, oh, well, I've got some cyber coverage, I'm good.
And if you just assume that carrier is just going to give you all the broad coverage, you're probably not going to like that in the end. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, where we see the most claims is from a cyber crime attack. That's where you send out the money, that's social engineering. Or if your customer is trying to pay you for an invoice that you are owed, that's called an invoice manipulation. So you have no control of your customer, but the hacker will get onto your network and get onto your email. That's usually where they do it.
Okay.
And so they'll trick your customer, and they think they're paying you, but they're actually paying a hacker. And you have no control over what your customer is doing with their money, but you want to get paid, right?
Right.
And you follow up 2 weeks later, and they say, oh, I just paid you that invoice.
Okay.
And so that's called invoice manipulation coverage. And those are the two, really, probably for the small business owner, the two biggest things that we see. And
do you ever see exclusions on those? And for the audience, exclusion is essentially a carrier might say, these are the things we don't cover. Do you ever see that?
Yeah, again, if you have the throw in on your package policy, it's probably not going to cover the social engineering or the invoice manipulation.
Right.
But on a regular cyber or standalone cyber policy, that's going to be covered. And so I would say about 5 years ago, a lot of carriers did have a callback provision requirement. They would say, if you don't call back to confirm that it's, because that would weed it out. And so they basically exclude that. So the carriers have kind of gotten away from that for the most part because it's just really not good to have on there. So we just don't work with those carriers that would try to put that on there.
Okay.
The callback provision exclusion, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
But really, those are the two main things that you want to make sure you have.
Okay. So as I put a non-insurance hat on and I think about all the annoying things I'm having to do with my financial institutions, if I bring up my cell phone, they're asking me to do what's called, I think it's a two-step authentication. I have to do a text. Are you seeing that insurance carriers are asking you if you do it or even requiring it? Is that is that happening in the marketplace?
Yeah, most carriers want to require that you have the multi-factor authentication.
So that's not just the IT manager at your company being extra annoying and requiring you to do something? Okay. All right. Shout out to the IT managers. Thank you for keeping us virus free. So that's an actual requirement for some cyber insurance companies.
Yeah, I'd say most carriers require that now. There may be some that don't have that requirement. So we can kind of work around that. And usually it's a pretty simple just control that you can put in place with your IT managed service provider. So I would say at the end of the day, filling out an application to get the cyber coverage will kind of uncover some of those things. Oh, we're doing the multi-factor authentication for remote access for our employees, but we're not doing it for email. Oh, we can just talk to our IT managed services provider. It's not a big to-do to add that control. They just add it. So it really helps uncover some of the issues you may have.
Okay, so a simple application, that's going to be you just stopping your business, looking at it, and it could be either an issue of you're not going to be covered if you file a claim, or maybe even a discount if you have these extra layers. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
So again, if you're a company and you do financial transactions, that's probably your biggest exposure to cyber. What about for those who have sensitive data, medical information, social securities? If you're a business like a financial advising firm, maybe you're not collecting money, but you have a lot of sensitive data. Are they vulnerable to any cyber attacks?
Yeah, absolutely. The pushback I get a lot of times is that, oh, well, we have a third-party hosting company that holds some of that data, but still that account...
Like a GoDaddy? Like one of those hosting companies?
Amazon Web Services. So at the end of the day, whoever, say that accounting firm is taking, or financial advisor that you mentioned before, they're getting all of the social securities, bank account information, a lot of really good stuff for a hacker to get their hands on, right? And so, they just want to, they think that they're insulated because someone else is storing that data for them. But if that third party has a breach, they're still responsible to notify all their customers, and they could have damage to their reputation, business interruption. And really, at the end of the day, one of my clients and good friends used to call it prepaid legal.
Got it.
So it's kind of, he said that tongue in cheek, just kind of funny, but really that's what it is. I mean, it's just really peace of mind, because if you're an accounting firm or financial advisory firm, you want to be doing what you do best, right? Yeah. You don't want to be worrying, like, what do I do if something happens and a wire transfer is sent to the wrong place? Someone sends the money to someone else instead of me. My customer's information is compromised. It's really just having that peace of mind to call the carrier and they can help you through that situation.
Okay. And what could a carrier do? Let's just say, oh my gosh, I'm being held for ransom with this sensitive data or this payment. What can a carrier do and not do in the event of a cyber claim?
So the carrier really has just a team of experts that they're going to bring in. So that's going to be cybersecurity professionals. It's going to be attorneys that specialize in working with data breaches, forensic accounting firms, public relations firms. Basically like the A-team of cyber response people.
Like Ben Affleck in that movie with accounting where he's kind of like a brain man. He's
that's
got
right.
his head. Okay. All right. That's what I'm imagining.
The accountant. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Great movie.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you want to do what you do and you want to work with the team, the A-team. You want to have the A-team behind you to help you get through a sticky situation. Okay. And so really the premiums aren't that much.
Yeah, that's my next question. Does this cost $1 million a year to get coverage? What's an average cost? I'm a 20 employee company. I'm in software. I'm in Metro Atlanta. Is this going to cost me $100,000 a year? Just ballpark it for me.
I would say on the low end, you can get it for $1,000 is probably, and maybe even a little less depending.
$1,000 a month?
$1,000 a year.
Really?
So
okay.
less than $100 a month.
Wow.
You can have a cyber policy. And obviously that depends on what kind of business you are. If you're a big hospital with a lot of healthcare information and you have a lot of what they call personally identifiable information on your records, your network, then the premium will go up. But still, I mean, we see for a $30 million a year company, $5,000-$6,000 a year. So it can really range from $5,000 to $20,000. So it's really in your best interest to let us take a look at it.
And do they have ranges of what they would like? Again, if I had an office manager who's inexperienced, made a boo-boo, didn't do anything on purpose, but sent a customer a $100,000 invoice that was really fake. Mm-hmm. I mean, will a cyber policy reimburse that amount? You know, is there limits or ranges?
Yeah, good question. So usually for the cyber crime, it starts at around $250,000 as the limit. Usually they'll have $1 million in limit just for the ransomware, notification, the other coverage parts, but $250K is usually what we see for that.
So that's kind of like a car. If I get in a car wreck and it's my fault, there's a line item on the policy. If I get in a huge wreck on I-75 and there's 100 cars involved, there's a limit. And if I pay a certain amount of premium, it's going to cover $250,000 of damage. I pay a little bit more, it might cover $1 million. Cyber is probably similar. So it's all risk tolerance and your exposure as a business. But golly, I didn't know it was that expensive. It could go as low as $1,000.
Right.
So, okay. So typically, if you're a business owner, you're hearing this, who does the cyber insurance? Do you call your State Farm agent? Do you call your Farm Bureau? Are there specialists with cyber?
Yeah, so we actually have a really cool rating platform that's on our website that you can just go on.
BIS Benefits.com.
You don't even have to talk to an insurance agent and it's going to hit you up for more stuff if
Agents
you're worried about that.
Worst. They're the worst. You don't want to talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, literally you can plug in like 4 data points and then they'll say, here's your quote. And then we're happy to go through it with you if you have any questions. And it's really that painless.
Yeah. I remember years ago, BIS, we had our IT company, shout out, they do a great job, Jet Business. And they did this education to our office. And there was a lot of staff members coming out of college at the time. And they even showed us how to look at your email on the reply and say, is it really from Amazon and Google or is that somebody else?
That's right.
And that was a great exercise for our staff to say, hey, there's people after us, even though we're not sending financial back and forth data, but we are holding sensitive data of our clients. So for BIS and as one of the owners, I care about us being secure for our clients and having that data. So it's something you want to ignore. A lot of people want to ignore, not think about insurance, but this is something if you just stop and slow down, you'll be glad that you addressed it because a lot of these policies that you might have had 10, 15 years ago are not addressing what could happen today. And I'm sure I had to throw AI in a podcast just at least once with all the buzzwords out there. I'm sure that's making it even easier for hackers to get into our system.
Right.
So, okay.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you talking about cyber insurance. And again, that website, bisbenefits.com, if you ever need a cyber insurance quote. But thank you for today's conversation.